This happened a few months ago. I'm Henry, 42, and I've been farming my family's land for as long as I can remember. Since my wife passed last year, it's been a struggle. I spend my days with the crops and animals, and while I like the quiet, it can get kinda lonely. I think I miss her more than I let on. One stormy evening, I was checking on the cows. The rain fell heavy and the wind howled. I was soaked, but I had to make sure they were all right. The barn door creaked as I opened it. I took a few steps inside, feeling the warm, musty air hit my face. That's when I saw her. She was standing in the shadows, a woman dressed in worn, tattered clothes. I thought maybe she was lost, seeking shelter from the storm. My heart raced a bit. Maybe it was the storm, or maybe it was her. I asked her if she was okay, but she just looked at me, her eyes wide and frightened. I felt a chill run down my spine. I wanted to help her, but now I'm not so sure. Miriam, she said her name was. She accepted my offer for a warm meal. Over the next few days, she kept coming back. We talked about the land, my crops, and the animals. It felt good, like I had someone to share this with again. But things got weird. One morning, I found the corn all wilted and brown, even though it had been healthy the day before. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe the storm did it. But then I started hearing strange sounds at night, loud rustling from the woods. I could hear whispers, but I couldn't make out the words. I felt cold when I heard them, shaking all over. Each time I mentioned it to Miriam, she'd look away, almost like she was scared too. I think I should have asked her what was going on, but I didn't know how. People around here started looking at me differently. The neighbors had been whispering about a strange woman visiting me. I could tell they thought I was losing my mind. I'm not sure I wasn't. Maybe it was my grief, or maybe it was something else, but I couldn't understand it. I wondered if I was inviting trouble into my life. Then, one evening, I finally asked her outright, "Miriam, what's happening here?" She looked nervous, shifting from one foot to the other. "You shouldn't have let me in," she said. I felt an icy tension in the air. That's when I knew I might have opened a door I couldn't close. Then she asked me, "Why do you keep trying to help me?" I felt a shiver run down my spine. I turned around, thinking the wind picked up, but there was no wind, just darkness. And then I felt a presence behind me. I'm not sure what I saw, but my heart raced. It felt like I was not alone anymore. The shadows grew longer, and I could sense something evil in the air. I wanted to run, but I was frozen in place. I could smell dirt and decay mixed with the rain. I turned back to Miriam, but she was gone. I stumbled out of the barn, my heart pounding. Voices filled my ears, whispering my name. I didn't want to go back, but I felt drawn in. That night, I felt trapped. My thoughts raced. What had I done? What had I invited into my life? The whispers turned to laughter. I don't remember how long I stood there, gripped with fear and confusion. All I knew was that I should have never opened that door. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled in my chest, heavy and unyielding. I made my way down to the kitchen, but the thought of breakfast made my stomach turn. Instead, I grabbed my old jacket and headed outside for some fresh air. The sun was up, stretching its light across the fields, but I couldn't shake the shadows from last night. I walked towards the cornfields, my heart sinking as I saw the sad state of the crops again. The wilted stalks looked worse than before. I knelt down to inspect them, hoping to find some explanation, but all I saw was brown, lifeless vegetation. It felt like a sickness had crept over the land. I heard a rustling nearby and turned sharply. A figure was there, standing at the edge of the tree line. It was a young girl, her hair tangled like the wild grass. I blinked, trying to make sense of her presence. She seemed out of place, just like Miriam had. I felt a spark of panic. I needed to keep my distance, but I was curious.
"Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. She stepped closer, and I noticed her eyes were wide, just like Miriam's. "Have you seen her?" the girl asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated. "Who? Miriam?" The moment I said her name, the girl flinched. She nodded slowly, her expression shifting to one of fear. "You shouldn't be with her. She's not who you think she is." I felt a chill run through me. "What do you mean?" "She brings darkness," the girl said, glancing nervously at the trees. "Everything she touches, it dies." A weight settled in my stomach. Was this another trick of my mind? Or maybe the onset of grief had warped my reality? I wanted to dismiss it, but something in her eyes told me she was sincere. "But I thought," I started, but she cut me off. "You have to stop her before it's too late." The girl turned around, seeming something behind her. Her wide eyes darted to the woods, filled with panic. "She's coming!"
Felt my breath hitch in my throat. I was torn. I wanted to run back to the house, but my feet were heavy. I caught a glimpse of movement in the trees. Something dark, something wrong. "Wait!" I called out, but she was already sprinting away. Suddenly, I felt the air chill, and I turned back to face the field. The whispers returned, louder now, swirling around me. "Henry, Henry!" I stumbled backwards, heart racing again. This was more than I could handle. I needed answers. I needed to confront Miriam. As I turned to head back, my eyes caught a flash of white fabric disappearing into the trees. It looked like her dress. I took off running. If she was involved in whatever was happening, I had to find her. The feeling of dread pushed me forward, even as the whispers grew louder. What if I was wrong? What if I was just a man who had lost everything, chasing shadows and ghosts? But deep down, I felt a pull, an urgency to reveal the truth before it consumed me entirely. The trees swallowed the life behind me, and I knew I was about to confront something I couldn't fully understand. As I plunged deeper into the woods, the sunlight faded, swallowed by the dark branches overhead. My pulse raced as leaves crunched beneath my feet. The whispers faded into an eerie silence, and all I could hear was my own breath echoing in the heavy air. I stopped, straining to listen for any sign of Miriam or the girl. Nothing, just emptiness. A sudden rustle burst from nearby, and I turned quickly, half expecting to find something waiting in the shadows. But it was only an old crow, cawing as it took flight, momentarily startling me. "Get a grip, Henry," I muttered to myself. This was not the time for panic. But as I pressed on, doubt crept into my mind. Was Miriam really a threat, or was I chasing a phantom born from loss and confusion? The forest's atmosphere thickened around me, the trees forming a suffocating embrace. I stumbled over roots and brambles, the weight of my thoughts dragging me down. Would confronting her lead to more heartbreak? Or was it the only way to save whatever was left of this place, my home? Then, just ahead, I noticed a clearing. The shadows parted slightly, revealing a small abandoned cabin hidden among the trees. Memories of days spent laughing with Miriam flashed through my mind, yet a sense of foreboding gripped me. Maybe this place held a clue. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding, anticipation nagging at the corners of my mind. As I reached the door, it creaked open, as if inviting me inside. The air turned ice cold, sending a shiver down my spine. I hesitated briefly, but then stepped through the threshold. Inside, the cabin was devoid of life, save for the dust motes dancing in the fading light. Cobwebs hung from the rafters, creating an unsettling stillness. I could feel the whispers already starting to creep back in, curling around my thoughts like a fog. Then I spotted something on the ground, a delicate white handkerchief embroidered with flowers. A chill raced through me. It was hers. I bent down to pick it up, and a jolt of energy coursed through my fingers. The whispers intensified again, this time turning into frantic shouts, demanding to be heard. "Henry, help!" I dropped the handkerchief, startled. The voice sounded familiar, almost like it was coming from the very walls of the cabin. I scrambled to my feet, confusion swirling in my gut. Was it Miriam? Or was it the girl warning me, urging me to get out? Just then, I heard a noise outside, a rustling through the underbrush. I spun around, heart racing. I was not alone. Someone or something was here with me. My instincts screamed to leave, but I needed to know what was happening. I had to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Before I could think twice, I edged toward the window, peering out into the dim light, bracing myself for whatever was about to emerge from the shadows. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass. My breath fogged up the surface, but I wiped it away quickly. Outside, the deepening twilight made it hard to see anything clearly. I squinted, trying to discern shapes among the trees. A low, muffled sound broke through the stillness, like footsteps shuffling through dead leaves. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Silence answered me. I took a step back, my heart pounding. Should I hide? Call out? I wasn't sure. The fear of the unknown clawed at my insides. But I couldn't just stand there. I needed answers. Slowly, I crept around the cabin to the back door. Each movement felt like a lifetime. Every creak of the old wood echoed in the empty space around me. As I reached the rear, another sound came, a soft whimper, full of despair. My gut twisted. It was too quiet for someone to be having fun in these woods. I had to see. I yanked the door open and stepped out cautiously. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, a reminder of the forest's power. I followed the sound, heart racing, until I reached a small thicket. Pushing through the branches, I finally saw her. The girl was crouched low to the ground, her eyes wide and filled with terror. She was no older than 12, her hair tangled and her clothes torn. The sight sent a wave of pain crashing over me. Her face was streaked with dirt and fear. "Help me," she gasped, darting her gaze around as if someone might come for her. "Do you know where Miriam is?" I asked, crouching down to her level, trying to match her urgency. "Not her! No!" she cried. "She'll find you! She's looking for me!" A chill ran down my spine. The
realization crashed over me like ice water. Miriam wasn't just a friend. She had become something far darker, something capable of terrorizing a child. The girl's fear matched my own. I moved closer, wanting to comfort her, but not sure if I should. "What do you mean? Why is she after you?" Just then, branches cracked loudly behind me, and I spun around. My instincts flared, adrenaline surged, and I prepared to run if I had to. The girl scrambled to her feet, her earlier panic now a raw edge of desperation. "Please, we have to go," she begged, pulling at my sleeve. As she tugged me, everything took on a surreal quality. The cold, the dread, the feeling of being watched, it sent my mind racing. Just as I turned to make a break for it, I heard another voice, low and haunting, cutting through the trees. "Henry." It called to me like a siren song, echoing through the shadows. I couldn't tell if it was my mind playing tricks or if it was Miriam drawing me in. I hesitated for just a moment, torn between the two fears, the girl's plea and that voice from the past. Then I felt it, a shift in the air. The forest held its breath. Whatever was out there, it was here now. I grabbed the girl's hand, feeling our fear intertwining. "Run!" I shouted, and we both bolted into the dark woods, driven by an instinct for survival. As I sprinted, I could still hear that voice, weaving through the branches, reaching out to me. But I had made my choice. Behind us, the whispers grew louder. With every step, the urgency intensified. But what was chasing us, and where was it leading us? I had to find out before it was too late. We dashed through the underbrush, branches whipping against my skin. The girl was surprisingly fast, her small frame gliding through the trees, as if she had done this many times before. Panic pushed us onward, but I didn't dare look back. I could feel something following us, lurking just beyond my line of sight. "Where do we go?" I shouted, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. "Just keep running," she urged, glancing over her shoulder. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and something else I couldn't understand. Was it trust? "We have to reach the old barn." The old barn. It was a hazy memory from summers long past, a place where I had spent countless afternoons. Would it still stand? Would it be a sanctuary or a trap? "Why the barn?" I asked, but we had no time for a real answer. I pushed forward, the girl's grip still tight in my hand. The whispers grew louder, chilling my blood. They sounded almost human, weaving through the night air. I tried to remember what Miriam had become. Had she changed so much? Or was it something else that stalked us? Suddenly, the ground dipped,
and I stumbled over a gnarled root. I fell to my knees, pulling the girl down with me just before a low branch snapped overhead. The voices wrapped around us like a shroud, suffocating and dark. "Go!" I urged her, but the breath had left my lungs. The girl hesitated, fingers trembling against mine. "I can't leave you." Her voice was an urgent whisper, filled with a mix of fear and determination. I squeezed her hand. "We'll be okay. Just trust me. We need to keep moving." With that, we scrambled back to our feet and pressed onwards, the barn still a vague silhouette in the distance. Each step felt harder. The air was heavy, as if the forest itself was trying to hold us back. Just when I thought we might lose hope, a faint light flickered through the trees. It cast a dim glow, warming the darkness around us. I felt a spark of hope. It had to be the barn. "There!" I pointed, my voice rising above the whispers. The girl nodded, her fear shifting to renewed energy. We raced toward the light, breasts heaving, hearts pounding. As we approached, I spotted the barn's old wooden doors slightly ajar, swaying gently in the breeze. My chest tightened. "What if it's a trap?" I asked, uncertainty creeping in. "Better than staying out here," she replied, pulling me along. We reached the doors, and I pushed them open, the rusted hinges groaning in protest. Darkness welcomed us inside, but the faint glow seemed to linger just beyond. I took a cautious step inside, scanning the shadows. The interior was musty and filled with dust motes suspended in the air. I could barely make out shapes, old farming tools, hay bales, and the unmistakable outline of something larger in the far corner. "That's where we can hide," the girl whispered, pointing to a cluster of stacked bales. Suddenly, I heard the unmistakable crunch of leaves behind us, snapping underfoot. My heart sank. "We're not alone," I said, glancing back at the half-open doors, darkness edging closer. As I looked back at the girl, she wore a look of pure terror. "What do we do now?" she asked, and I could feel the ground shift beneath us. Before I could respond, the whispers crescendoed into a chilling chorus. My mind raced. That voice, whatever it was, it had come for us, and it was closer than ever. "Quick," I urged, darting toward the bales. We ducked behind them and held our breath. Then everything went silent. And that's when I saw it, the shadow looming in the doorway, waiting. The shadow shifted, taking a step forward. My heart pounded like a drum. I wanted to bolt, to grab the girl and run again, but the bales created a fragile barrier between us and whatever was out there. "What is it?" she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. "I don't know," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I squinted, searching for the shape was tall and narrow, like a person, but something about it felt wrong. It had an unnatural stillness, as if it were more shadow than flesh. The whispers returned, swirling around us like a tempest. They seemed to come from the shadow itself, blending with the rustling of the wind outside. I struggled to make sense of the foreign words. Were they warnings? Threats? Suddenly, the creature stepped fully into the barn, revealing a face. It was gray, gaunt, and eerily human. In the dim light, its eyes glowed with a faint, sickly hue. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just any shadow. It was a manifestation of something dark, connected to whatever had been haunting the woods. "I think it's looking for us," the girl murmured, clutching my arm tightly. I nodded. "We can't move or make a sound," I whispered back. My mind raced. If this thing was somehow tied to Miriam, or whoever she had become, then hiding might not be enough. It moved closer, gliding silently across the floor, its gaze sweeping through the barn. I could feel the weight of its stare, piercing the veil of darkness between us. I held my breath, praying it wouldn't see us. Then the creature paused, as if sensing something. My heart seized. Was it possible it could smell fear? Just as quickly, it turned its head, drawn to the far corner of the barn, where the light was weaker. "Now's our chance," I whispered urgently. Silently, we crawled back, trying to keep our movements fluid and quiet. As we edged away from the bales, the creature seemed fixated on something else, perhaps tricked by the flickering shadows cast by the dim light. "Where do we go?" the girl asked again, fear creeping back into her voice. "There's a trapdoor in the floor. It has to be close by. I remember it from when I was a kid," I said, hoping my memory served me right. Just then, the whispers crescendoed again, rising in furious pitch. The creature spun around, its attention fully redirected to us. It glided forward, faster this time, the light catching the edges of its thin frame. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing her wrist. We dashed toward the old wooden planks, frantically searching for the trapdoor. With one swift motion, I flung aside a nearby hay bale. There it was, a battered hatch barely ajar. "Help me," I grunted as I pulled it up, revealing darkness below. My heart raced with the thought of what awaited us down there. "Are you sure?" she asked, eyes wide. "No," I snapped, panic rising, but I knew we had no choice. Before it could reach us, I shoved her into the opening. She yelped, and I followed, slamming the trapdoor shut just as I heard the thing screech from above. We landed in cold, damp darkness. I couldn't see a thing. I scrambled to my feet. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I think so," she whispered back, but her voice trembled. We have to find a way out of here," I said, desperate for reassurance. "If it followed us—" The ground vibrated beneath us, a low rumble echoing through the space. "That can't be good," I said, dread pooling in my stomach. I grasped her hand, pushing forward into the pitch blackness, hoping we wouldn't be trapped forever. Each step brought uncertainty, but I sensed we were running out of time. Then I heard it again, the whispering, now closer, blending with the sound of something scraping against the door above. I stopped. "We have to keep moving," I urged, but the strange sounds filled my head. There was a palpable sensation that we were being hunted, and it was not just the creature's eyes we had to worry about now. What else lurked in the darkness? I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out any shape or form that could guide us. The air felt thick, stifling. "What's down here?" the girl whispered, her voice barely rising above the echoes of our breathing. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling my way along the cold, damp wall. "But it can't be worse than what's up there." We crept forward, my heart thudding in cadence with the rumbling ground. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices stirring to life around us. Each syllable scraped against my mind like nails on a chalkboard. "Look out!" she suddenly gasped, yanking my arm just as I stepped into a low-hanging beam. I stumbled back into her, both of us clinging to each other as our panic rose. "I can't see anything," I hissed back, forcing myself to breathe deeply. My pulse raced, matching the chaos of sound. Just keep moving forward. As we advanced cautiously, the whispers began to shift, coalescing into a single voice. It was distorted, a mix of feeble cries and hollow laughter. My stomach lurched. "What are they saying?" "I
can't tell. It's like they're arguing?" Her voice quivered with fear. With a sudden snap, something dropped from above, landing a few paces ahead. I felt my breath hitch as it tumbled into view. A broken lantern, its glass shattered, lay sputtering on the ground. The flickering flame cut through the darkness, illuminating a narrow tunnel. "That must lead out," I said, hope surging through me. "Let's go." I pulled her forward, my eyes locked on the light, willing it to guide us away from the horror. She hesitated, glancing back into the shadows. "What if it follows us?" "It has to be good," I insisted, tugging her along. "We don't have time to—" The door above us groaned under an unseen weight, its hinges protesting as something scraped along its surface. My breath caught in my throat. "Run," I urged, pushing her ahead of me as I felt the ground shift again. We sprinted towards the tunnel, every footfall echoing ominously in the confined space. The lantern flickered wildly, casting dancing shadows that felt alive, eager. I barely noticed when I tripped on a loose stone, crashing to the ground. I scrambled back to my feet, panic clawing at my chest as I turned to see if the thing was coming. But she was there, reaching out a hand. "Come on!" Before I could respond, I heard it, the faint but unmistakable sound of something heavy falling, like a beast losing its balance, followed by a hungry whisper that sent chills skittering down my spine. As we dove into the tunnel together, the world around us darkened once more. The light flickering behind us disappeared, swallowed by the void. Just as we thought we were free, the tunnel narrowed painfully. "A wall!" she cried out, panic rising in her voice. "No, there has to be—" I felt along the sides, my fingers brushing against cold earth. And then I found it, a rough, uneven edge. I pressed my palm against it, feeling the contours shifting under my touch. "Here, it's an opening." "Are you sure?" she asked, trembling as I dug at the earth, pulling away clumps of dirt. "I don't know, but I'd rather take a chance than go back." The rasping whisper returned, a chorus now, echoing our desperation. I felt us being drawn toward the sound. "Help, please!" But our cries for help felt swallowed by the weight of the darkness. I looked back. "I have to know." That's when I saw it, a long, pale hand emerging from the shadows, reaching out toward us. Panic surged through me, and I shoved the girl forward, fear propelling us even deeper into the unknown. We squeezed through the opening, heart pounding in sync with the air rushing around us. The ground beneath had shifted again, sloping downward like a winding path into an even deeper darkness. I could barely make out the contours ahead, but I felt urgency pulling at my heels. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice a mere whisper, urgency laced with fear. "Anywhere but here," I whispered back, pushing forward. But if that was the right direction, I had no idea. Ahead, I saw a faint glow from a source I couldn't identify. "Look," I pointed, hoping it might be another way out, some sign of safety. We pushed on, the gentle light flickering as we approached it. As we neared, I felt the air change, thick, almost electric. But the glow was a false promise. It shimmered before me, revealing long shapes that twisted and turned. They were not like shadows. They were people? I couldn't tell. They were still, faces turned, mouths moving silently, as their bodies flickered like flames. "What is that?" she squeaked, gripping my arm tighter. "I don't know, but we have to keep moving," I said, every instinct screaming to run. The distortions in the light looked like they were stretching toward us, fingers reaching as if to grasp what escaped their realm. Suddenly, one of the figures jerked forward, breaking away, darting straight toward us. My body locked, frozen in fear. I wanted to scream, to turn around and flee, but the girl pulled me back. "Wait, look at its face." I squinted into the brightness, trying to make sense of the chaos. When the figure stepped closer, I recognized it. It was a boy, no older than us, with a haunting smile stretched across his face. "Help me!" he yelled, the sound echoing in all directions. Her eyes darted to me.
Should we? Something is wrong, I muttered, drawing back. I didn't trust anything here. Run! But my words fell silent as the boy's grin widened, his eyes glowing a bright amethyst. Stop! You're not supposed to leave! A sharp chill ran through me, forcing my feet into motion. I grabbed her hand, and we turned to sprint back the way we came. I felt the ground tremble beneath us, pulsing like a heart. The boy's laughter rippled through the air, mixing with the whispers that chased us. Each step felt heavier, the darkness growing thick around us. A cold wind swept through the tunnel, shuddering the walls like a warning. "What's happening?" she cried out as we pushed through the narrowing path. "I don't know," my mind raced. "Just keep going." Just then, a wall of shadows loomed ahead, cutting off our exit. I felt the ground beneath our feet begin to shake violently. "We can't stop here!" With no other choice, I veered to a rough tunnel opening on the side, its edges slick with moisture. I pulled her in, just as the shadows lunged forward, their forms indistinct but menacing. The moment we slipped inside, the darkness fell heavy around us. I racked my brain for a way out as we gasped for breath. That was when I stumbled into something cold and hard, like a door. "It's a way out!" I shouted, hope flaring again. Or was it? I hesitated, a question forming in my mind. As I pushed against the door, it rattled but wouldn't budge. My heart raced. What if we weren't meant to escape? What if we had opened Pandora's box instead? "Help!" the boy's voice echoed faintly from the other side. I turned back, sensing that whatever I opened could provoke something far worse than whatever had been following us. "Do we let him in?" she asked, fear-stricken. That's when I knew. This was only the beginning. This dark place was alive, and it was just starting to wake up. I pressed my back against the cold, relentless door. I could feel my breath quicken as the weight of the unknown pressed heavily in the still air. "We can't just leave him," she insisted, her voice trembling. "What if he's trapped like us?" "Or what if it's a trick?" I shot back, glancing at the unyielding door. "We don't even know what we're up against." Doubts twisted in my mind like shadows creeping closer. Still, I could hear the boy's pleas echoing softly. "Help me. Don't leave me here." His voice held a tinge of desperation, and it sank into the depths of my thoughts. What if he really was in danger? But what if we were walking straight into a trap? The darkness around us hummed with life. It felt like the walls themselves were watching, waiting. I didn't want to linger in this place one moment longer than I had to. "We have to find another way," I said, pulling her back. As I turned, I caught a glimpse of something else. The flickering lights that had flickered when we first entered. They danced at the edge of the hallway, taunting us as they swayed. They seemed alive, morphing and shifting just out of reach. "Do you see that?" I asked, pointing. "It's gotta mean something." "It feels wrong," she replied, hesitation seeping into her words. Yet desperation flickered in her eyes. She wanted answers, maybe even the boy. I took a step toward the light, and then another. The closer I got, the more it seemed to pull me in. It twisted like a path leading deeper into the belly of the darkness. But an unsettling thought crept in. What if it led back to the boy? I shook my head, forcing myself to focus. "No, stay close. We need to keep exploring." The ground underfoot continued to pulse like a restless heartbeat, quickening with each step I took. Suddenly, the whispering intensified, swirling around us. To my horror, I noticed shadows lurking just beyond the glimmering threshold. They shifted, darker than before, and fluttered toward us like bats from a cave. "What are those?" she gasped, backing away. I could just make out their outlines. They weren't just shadows. They held faces, filled with anguish and longing. Each one seemed to clamor for something. "We can't stay here," I urged, grabbing her arm and pulling her back. "We need to get out."
But as we retreated, something heavy crashed against the door behind us. The deafening noise echoed in the confined space, sending vibrations through my bones. "What was that?" she shouted, eyes wide. "I don't know, but we need to go now," I said, darting away from the door. We stumbled deeper into the dark, adrenaline surging through me. The shadows gave chase, flickering just behind. I didn't dare look back. But something else caught my eye. A faint outline of a staircase winding upward. "Up there," I pointed, my voice filled with newfound urgency. But just then, a chilling realization washed over me. The boy's voice was still echoing, mingling with the whispers of the shadows. It was like he was beckoning us to return. But at what cost? "Go!" I shouted, my heart pounding as we lunged toward the stairs. As we climbed, I could feel the whispers gaining ground behind us, and the shadows gathered closer, their grasping hands reaching out. Then everything fell silent. The moment we reached the top, the darkness shifted. I stumbled into a room, the walls painted in an odd shimmer. A warning.
Or an invitation? That's when I saw it. Standing in the center was a mirror, dark and gleaming. I couldn't help but feel it was another portal, another choice we had to make. But I felt the shadows pause right behind us, breathing against my neck. I knew we had to decide quickly, or it might be too late. As the shadows loomed just behind me, I felt an urgency overwhelm me. The darkness pulsed, its presence palpable, swirling like an angry storm. I could hear the whispers rising again, fraying my nerves with their indecipherable messages. I turned to the girl, her eyes wide with fear, matching my own. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," I admitted, glancing back at the swirling mist shadowing the entrance to the room. "We have to choose. Either we confront whatever is hunting us, or we step through the mirror." The mirror stood before us, its surface smooth but dark, as if absorbing the light. It resonated, faintly vibrating with an energy I could almost feel. Was it a portal? A trap? I glanced into it, searching for my reflection, but the surface shimmered with shadows instead. "Henry!" The girl tugged at my sleeve, snapping me from my trance. The shadows began to close in, relentless in their pursuit. "What if we get trapped in there?" "I don't think we have a choice," I replied, my heart pounding against my ribcage. The once comforting sound of whispers turned into an unsettling roar, drowning out my own thoughts. Whatever is behind us is not normal. "I don't want to go alone," she said softly. "Neither do I reassured, grabbing her hand tightly in mine. "But we'll face whatever lies ahead together." The shadows slinked closer, and the whispers transformed into a cacophony of voices, each pleading or demanding like an angry chorus. The darkness felt alive, seething with malevolence. I could sense that if we stayed any longer, we'd get pulled back, swallowed into our past, the relentless anguish tightening around us like a noose. "There's no more time," I said, pulling her toward the mirror. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. With a final surge of power, I thrust us both towards the mirror. As we collided with the surface, I braced myself for impact, expecting cold darkness to envelop us completely. But instead, there was only a searing flash. Light burst around us, blindingly bright, and for a moment I felt weightless, suspended in a strange ether. Together, we tumbled through, grasping each other tighter as we floated amidst the brilliance. Then, all at once, it dropped away. I landed painfully on solid ground with a thump, the girl crumpling beside me. I blinked rapidly, adjusting to the light. We had crashed into a clearing that felt achingly familiar. My farmhouse stood before us, a grotesque shadow of what it once was, silhouetted against the evening sky. The sun dipped low, painting the horizon in hues of orange and red, a stark contrast to the darkness we had just left behind. "Are we back?" she gasped, scrambling to her feet and glancing around, bewildered. "I think so." But my words fell away as I saw her, Miriam, standing just beyond the threshold of the barn, her expression a blend of longing and sorrow. Her eyes glowed like embers, almost pleading, but beneath it lurked something darker, an insatiable yearning that sent a stab of dread through my gut. "Henry," she called softly, fading into the resonant sound of whispers again. "No." I shook my head, my body rigid with uncertainty. "We should go." But she remained still, her gaze piercing through the air. "You don't have to fear me. I can help. You just must accept me." Before I could answer, the ground beneath us trembled again. The horizon flickered, shadows gathering in the corners of my vision. The girl clung to my side, her eyes darting back to me. "What do we do? What is she?" "I don't know, but I think," I started to say, but the moment hung, heavy with implications I couldn't comprehend. The whispers swelled, surrounding us, offering confusion. "We've been through too much. We have to make our own fate." Miriam stepped forward, her shape shifting, flickering like a film stuck in rewind. "Don't fight it, Henry. Everything has a price." My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to deny everything she said. But before I could gather my thoughts, shadows spilled from the barn's doorway like living tendrils reaching toward us both. "Now!" I shouted, grabbing the girl's hand tightly once more. "We move!" With one last glance at Miriam, her pleading expression etched upon my memory, I turned away. We bolted through the field, racing toward the tree line at the edge of the property, headed for the dimming light that marked our way home. As we tore through the high grass, the whispers chased us, echoing in my ears. They shifted again, taunting me, hinting at stories buried deep, unresolved, unanswered. I pushed those thoughts away as we barreled into the trees, branches reaching like arms. Would it ever end? Had we escaped the grip of darkness, or would it always be lurking just beyond the edges of our lives? I glanced back just as we cleared the trees, catching one last glimpse of the barn. Nothing remained but a waver in the air and the fading whispers of what had once been. "Henry," the girl's voice brought me back. I turned, and she had stopped, her eyes scanning the distant past we had just fled. I started, but I had no answers. She simply shook her head, a knowing sadness glimmering through her gaze, as if she understood the power of choice, the weight of those looming shadows. One question lingered in my mind. Would we ever truly be free? As we walked forward, hand in hand, trying to find something resembling safety, I realized the threads of darkness might always be intertwined with the fabric of this world. And while we could move on, the questions would remain, echoing faintly in the whisper of the wind. I had escaped the physical clutches, but the lingering weight of the unknown haunted me. I glanced once more at the remnants of that cursed barn, wondering if we'd truly found our way, or if the past, like shadows, simply awaited its return.